let's spend some time on a story that you just put out right before we went on to the air today. And this is an update on the Oklahoma State Athletic Commission. If you remember, about a month or two ago, we got the story that AEW received a warning when Nyla Rose had done a match late last year on an ROH show with Alejandra Lyon and was informed they were getting a warning about a transgender wrestler taking part in a match that is not allowed per the State Athletic Commission in Oklahoma.
Yes. So guess what I did? I sent a records request. And
were they aware of the extraordinary exemptions that they had at their disposal in Oklahoma City, or were they a bit more transparent?
I don't know. Every state has different laws. These are laws at the state level. So I have not looked deeply into what exemptions they could have tried to get approval for. But I did get a records request back, and I got some emails, mainly some emails, and that's what I was requesting. They also gave me a letter showing me that they had warned another promoter in 2023 about what it seems pretty clearly, it's not spelled out specifically, but seemed pretty clearly to have they had an intergender or had a transgender person wrestle on their show, and they were warned about it. And it looks like they had to do basically what AEW had to do, which was, we're warning you about this, but you can't do it again. Basically, you can't have a transgender wrestler wrestle someone who is a cisgender person who is of the same gender. So when Nyla Rose wrestled at the Oklahoma City show in December, at least two people emailed the commission, which we have records of. They emailed the commission asking, basically saying, what's with the inconsistency here? You're penalizing, this person and that person or in that promotion. So why are you not treating AEW the same way? Is it because AEW is a big promotion and they get preferential treatment? That's sort of their position. And they sent in, they had a hearing. Well, they had their meeting on January 3rd. Remember, this show was December 20th, I believe. The next day they were getting emails. Then they had a meeting on January 3rd with all of their members of the board who, one person they have a few people who are full-time employees, it looks like, but then they have sort of these board members, sort of like a board of a company. And they came together and they decided that, yes, they should warn AEW. So they sent an email to one Chris Harrington. You may have heard of him. Basically telling him that, look, we've investigated this, we looked into it, and we've decided that you have violated the rules here. You can reply to this email and just accept the warning, and you won't have to face any more penalties, or you can have a hearing. The records show that Chris Harrington copied his legal team and said, we'll get back to you. And then a few days later, a member of their legal team emailed the commission back saying, okay, we accept the correction. Keep in mind, AEW already had another event in Oklahoma scheduled at the time in Tulsa in February. So let's say, if they were going to fight it more, that might have put that event in jeopardy, I suppose. They did have the event in Tulsa. Nyla Rose at this time is appearing on a lot of Ring of Honor events. She did appear in Ring of Honor events on surrounding days of the Tulsa event. There were actually, as far as I can tell by looking at Cage Match, there were no Ring of Honor matches taped in Tulsa. So whether if this didn't happen, she would have been on that show. It's hard to say, but she was not on that show in Tulsa. I didn't realize until looking into this. Look, they've already been back to Oklahoma after this, but she was not on that show. There were no Ring of Honor matches on that show, so I don't know if she would have been on it anyway. In any case, that's happened. And I also spoke with a few people who are involved in wrestling in the local wrestling scene in Oklahoma, including Logan Knight, who's an independent wrestler who's been pushing back on a lot of commission issues. And I also spoke with a person who, Connor Vaughn, who has in 2022 applied for a wrestler's license. Connor Vaughn is a transgender man, and when he did his blood work and all of his paperwork was submitted to the commission approached Connor Vaughn and told him that, hey, look, we understand you're a transgender man here, and you can't wrestle other basically cisgender men, because we will be viewing that to be under our rules an intergender match, and that's not allowed. So my main takeaway here, though, is in this email that the commission administrator sent to AEW when they let them know that they were in violation of the rules. They mentioned that there is a meeting coming up in July, which is on their website is there's a meeting coming up on July 10th when the board members are all going to get together. And the administrator, who has since retired, that was Joe Miller. The administrator is now Diana Fletcher. But he mentioned that there's going to be a meeting and we might change the rule. It might not go into effect until July, but we're considering changing the rule. So, according to their rules, you can send a letter and request that this rule be changed. So on July 10th, maybe it will be changed, and that would allow transgender wrestlers to wrestle people of the same gender.
And AEW does not have any shows on the schedule set for the state of Oklahoma for the foreseeable future. So,
right. and that was something that was brought up in a media call in April. Tony Khan was asked about the situation, and he expressed a lot of support for Nyla Rose, and he expressed his disappointment in the Oklahoma State Athletic Commission. But then he was asked in a follow-up if AEW would be going back to Oklahoma, and he didn't really seem to be ready to answer it. And he said he would have to think about it, that he does want to support the fans and whatnot in Oklahoma, but he was not clear on whether or not they would go back. So we'll see if this rule gets changed in the first place. And I would suggest that maybe AEW could do something about this, and they could write a letter. I don't know if they have. I have asked them. I have not gotten a response. But we'll see if that happens, and if that rule does get changed, and if AEW does schedule any future shows in the state.
This feels like just a very outdated, rule on their books that could very easily be, I think, explained in a relatively simple fashion by AEW, by WWE. And I think that it would all come down to, I think, the open-mindedness of the commission members, that this is a pretty arcane rule on the books when we're talking about choreographed professional wrestling that we are talking about. We are not talking about boxing or mixed martial arts. We are talking about professional wrestling where you are working in concert with another person.
And this is the rule that is in their rule book right now. It says the commission will not approve sanctioning permits between human participants and non-human participants. That means no wrestling bears, I guess, or between males and females. A male participant is defined as a person who has a heterogametic sex born with XY chromosomes. A female participant is a person born of homogametic sex chromosomes, XX chromosomes. So that's how they're defining that, which would also prevent intergender matches from happening. And I should mention, too, we did get a comment from the commission through an assistant attorney general who said, Ms. Fletcher, Diana Fletcher, who is the administrator of the commission, Ms. Fletcher does not wish to comment at this time on the ongoing matters related to the December 2023 AEW event or the specific rules pertaining to intergender exhibitions or matches. Any actions taken to rules under the jurisdiction of the commission must be done consistently with timeline and actions prescribed by the Oklahoma Administrative Procedures Act and the Oklahoma Office of Administrative Rules Regulations on Rulemaking. An agenda for the July 10th, 2024 public meeting will be made available to the public consistent with the Oklahoma Open Meeting Act, which will prescribe the items of business to be discussed / considered by the commission during that meeting. So stay tuned to the Oklahoma State Athletic Commission official website, I guess.
Yeah, if any travelers out there, May 29th in Texas, and then July 10th, just hop on over to Oklahoma, and you can be front row for some of these hearings.
And I understand there was an issue recently in Oklahoma where there was a show held on a Native American Indian reservation, and this was not a sanctioned show, but it was on the Native American reservation, and the commission responded to that by suspending the wrestlers who were involved in that show. Those suspensions have since been lifted, but there's been more engagement with people in the wrestling scene and the commission.
Well, great reporting on this story and following up on this, because a lot of times we see these controversies that come up and there's a fervor about them and they quickly get forgotten. And the follow-up stories are the most important, because obviously this is going to be addressed in some way, we believe, on July the 10th, and we'll see if any significant change occurs here. And AEW's future in the state, I think it would be a really bad look for them if this stays on the books and they go back to Oklahoma and omit Nyla Rose. Like, I think that they would certainly take a public hit from doing such a show.
And this was not a public story, I believe, when they went to Tulsa. I don't think this broke until March or so.
Or it was
well, I
after
guess
the
it was
February show.
yeah. And the media call where Tony Khan addresses it is in April. So yeah, it's I understand they probably didn't want to jeopardize their scheduled show. And what would you do if there's a Dynamite taping? But yeah, I do wonder if there's something that AEW could do to affirm, to push for a change to the rule if they want to.